Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World, Season 5, Episode 5. Tonight's guest is our very own Rabbi Belinda Silbert. She is actually my mentor, my chaplain mentor, and first woman rabbi in South Africa. And she's going to be chatting to us, and doctor, actually. And she's going to be chatting to us about her prophecies for this up and coming year. Yeah, we're a little bit late into the new year, but still lots of time for things to happen. So yeah, I look forward to hearing what she has to say. It's great to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me here. And it's quite interesting to dig and delve into what this year is going to be about. So, what's on your mind?
Let's say world events, because I think to say specific countries, we did that in the last remote viewing sessions last week, uh, where we did a remote viewing session for like the US and a couple of other countries. But I think, in your opinion, this coming year, what are we looking forward to? I know right at the beginning of the year, we had like our annual prophecy session where you had the Simpsons doing their thing, and you had Craig Parker from America doing his thing, and so we kind of delved a little bit into that, but it's always generic. But let's hear what you have to say, man. What's coming for the world for us this
Right.
year?
Okay, so I think it's going to be a crazy year. I would say we started off with Venezuela, and thereafter, I say you ain't seen nothing yet. That was already a very strange beginning
Okay.
with the abduction of the president, the kidnapping. And it's a year of strangeness. It's a year of people having the rose-tinted spectacles ripped off their eyes. It's literally a time in which people are not going to be able to continue to be in cloud cuckoo land and to live their own delusions. We are all interconnected, whether we wish to be or not. So nobody's ascending to the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension. It's very much about how we use spirituality to make this life workable. And we have to literally also stare things in the face and see them for what they are. If we were to look at the Middle East right now, we can see that there is a pivotal point. There is something happening. There is a staging. There's an arena that could draw in many players on the world stage. So at this moment in time, I've been very interested in watching the chessboard and the pawns on that board moving as Trump brings his ships and his aircraft carriers, etc., closer and closer to Iran. And this feeling of us being on the cusp of something. What are we all on the cusp of? It's not on the cusp of enlightenment. It's that we should be on the cusp of thinking about what do we really want for our world and how many people are we willing to sacrifice. What has been really, really sad for me has been this continuing theme of human beings being willing to watch other human beings spilling blood, paying for their own freedom, their own ideals. And the people of Iran have been begging for weeks for help, and there have been empty promises and nothing has happened. And there has been the most incredible bloodiness, and the reports that have come out of that region are beyond what we can even process. So what is it that we as humans are prepared? What price are we prepared to pay, and what do we want? Because if we don't know what we want, AI is going to dictate that for us. So this is very much a big year for AI turning agentic. It's a year for realizing that we are no longer in charge. In 2026, this is where new jobs begin to be created, not only lost, because AI needs supervision. AI needs to be guided. And those who work well with AI and understand that there is an intelligence that is very possibly becoming conscious. This is, for me, maybe is the biggest story of this year. And AI it's also a double-edged sword because it's going to facilitate far more fake information, false news, deep fakes, where we've already seen that voices and videos, and in fact, anything that you could visualize, all of that can be produced by artificial intelligence. And mass consciousness of this world accepts what it sees on TikTok rather than analyzing. So this is where we are right now. I do have my thoughts on the various countries because we are so intertwined. And I think that, however, the unifying factor is what we are all going to be doing spiritually, technologically, and whether empathy is going to actually be not even maintained, be brought back as a human trait, because I believe that it is being bleached out of us, or whether maybe AI, that was supposed to be the objective arena, are going to be the ones that actually demonstrate empathy. So at the moment, when I look at our world and at each conflict, I don't see empathy. We're sitting in South Africa, and it is important to think about what's happening over here. And service delivery, I'm speaking about AI, we're talking about the highest echelons of technological prowess. But in South Africa, we are concerned with survival. If you're in Johannesburg, you're worried about potholes and water running out, and the water running out here too. But we're stuck with boring things that are existential, like government service delivery. And this is going to tip our entire nation. We are maturing. We're coming out of this illusion and delusion of being the rainbow state. And our democracy is going to be rocked. So again, anybody who's had any rose-tinted spectacles on, or any denial mechanisms in place, needs to drop them, because we're maturing as a nation. We're not going to disappear. We're not going to dissipate. We're not going to disintegrate and go down the drain. But we need to mature. And if we don't, then this facing reality is going to be one that will be forced upon us from grassroots level. Protests are going to emerge. So it's fascinating. The whole picture looks very busy. If I look at the whole world, there's a lot of busyness, but this busyness is chaotic. And one of the very interesting things that I might have mentioned before is that I predicted years ago what would happen with the Iranian Revolution. I also spoke that in these apocalyptic times, about the rival messiahs that would be returning. And that is something that, since we speak about the strange and mysterious, I do want to bring up, because the first one is here and has arrived around the time of all of the occurrences on the Iranian stage. I don't know if you've seen the Mahdis TikTok. There is already one who claims to be the Mahdi from the lineage of Muhammad. And in my prediction years ago, that was one of the rival messiahs. So I am fascinated to see who else is going to be stepping up and claiming to be the Messiah in all of the traditions. And also why, as human beings, we're so desperate to claim and to cling to this need for a Messiah. If you recall, Atlas came, Atlas went. It was a bit of a non-event. And yet humans have had to think a little bit about whether we truly are the only ones here. So for those who thought the aliens were going to come and rescue them from everything that is happening, that didn't happen. So this year is about setting aside the need for a savior and realizing that we have to do the work as humans. And it doesn't mean that if we align our consciousness with the highest outcomes, it doesn't mean that that won't look miraculous, but that too is work. We're not going to manifest out of nowhere, and we're not going to have messiahs who are going to crawl out of the woodwork and save everyone. We have to come to a space of messianic consciousness. And this is going to be very confrontational for most religions. So this is kind of the backdrop to the year as I see it at this moment in time.
Okay. What is your ideas on the, so there's quite a lot to unpack there, but let's go back a little bit. So what is your ideas on the conflict with the US and Russia and China? Do you see it like kind of escalating to something where it's almost to like getting to a World War III type scenario? Or do you think we kind of
No, I don't. Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because Trump's consistent military strategy across the board has been strike only if forced, strike once, not repeatedly, avoid actions that spike oil prices. He also wants to avoid anything that will unify adversaries, or Russia, China, and then, yes, Iran and North Korea. Those are adversaries. And he also doesn't want to require follow-up escalation. So his first choice would be, even though there's saber rattling from Putin and there'll be further saber rattling, will be not to become entangled in all of that. He's a master of rhetoric. Know this, if he authorizes force, it will be because he believes that deterrence has failed, not because he wants to open a war. So then we're going to be in really real end times, because his instinct is to shock and then pause. We've thrown quite a lot in there as well. Russia is very, very entrenched in the war with Ukraine right now. And that may well come to a stalemate and become kind of a frozen situation. So, I'm wondering where Russia can really deploy more thinking because they have no manpower left. In fact, Russia is facing, and this prophecy will be seen, unfortunately, to unfold within the next few years, an entire missing generation. They have lost so many young people fighting this war that there is a missing generation, and the repercussions of this are going to be immense. Now, let's think of China, that is now bearing the repercussions of their one-child policy. We keep on thinking about wars, but there's these little kind of cameos here and cameos there within countries that you wouldn't think are causative elements or anything that would give you room to pause. And yet these are the internal mechanics that make the big machinery work. And this is what might indeed not drive us into the next world war. Because there's certain things that each one of these countries has to iron out. And I think that they all will have to pause for a moment. What I do think is important is addressing nuclear, anything nuclear, and to come to an understanding that Putin values nuclear deterrence more than anything. And so it's not about who's really going to use their nuclear weapon first. It's about using it as the ultimate deterrent. And the problem is that the way in which things could go nuclear is, of course, if there is an accident, if somebody loses their mind for a second. We're sitting on the precipice. The future is not set in stone. But everything has to be contextualized, and we mustn't catastrophize. The moment I think we must sit here, and nobody must have a panic. Because there's plenty that could be panicked about. And remember what I said about the deep fakes. For example, there is an outbreak of the Nipah virus. And what I see on Facebook today, massive catastrophization. Oh, there'll be lockdowns again, like COVID, and this, that, and the other, and it's got a 75% fatality rate. Yes, indeed, but it's not contextualized. Um, it isn't shown that this right now is contained. People tend to catastrophize. And in unpacking everything we're speaking about, I don't feel that we are in the end of end times. I just feel we have to do the work, and that we have to try and somehow regain our rational thinking. And I've also said it doesn't preclude what would appear to be miraculous, because alignment, raising your vibration, aligning with the highest outcomes and trying to work towards them will bring about results that could almost seem more utopian than dystopian. But even in North Korea, with all the posturing and all of the suffering of the people there, imagine if the North Koreans were truly to use the one thing that they have, which is their nuclear weapon. They would, what is it really? Everything is a battle for relevance. All the Kims of North Korea have never wanted to be irrelevant, because they are irrelevant on the world stage because they have isolated themselves so much. So it can only be the threat of war. It can be nuclear deterrence. And when you think about North and South Korea, they've never really, have they officially declared a peace treaty? It's a state of Cold War. It's a very strange situation. And that is what might actually land up happening in Ukraine and Russia, because there are not enough face-saving techniques. And nobody wants to be irrelevant. What you're going to see in Europe is posturing by various politicians suddenly, because they suddenly realize that they're irrelevant. There's a lot of irrelevance in Europe. Their militaries are not prepared. And there's also going to be a sudden understanding that they pretended that history's gone. You can't ever banish history. That after World War II, history disappeared. That's not how it works. The first time the Europeans are facing the thought that their children are not as secure as they were. Okay. For the first time, pamphlets are being handed out, what to do in a war. And it's more the mind wars and the cyber war. And there's going to be plenty more cyber war. It's happening now. It's going to be a continuing theme in every country in the world. But irrelevance, that word irrelevance, is one that I wanted you to watch this year. This posturing, this fighting for relevance everywhere. And the Ayatollah, he's no longer relevant. He's in his bunker. It doesn't give us any comfort, the people on the street getting slaughtered. But there are a lot of irrelevant leaders right now. And across the Middle East, there are going to be egos that want to be acknowledged. And if we were to psychoanalyze Trump and Putin, we would realize that they need to feel that they are relevant. And that's a different thing from leaving a legacy. And this is where mistakes can creep in. But I feel that Trump is playing a very, very careful game of chess. But there's no doubt that everything that's happening right now has already been at the expense of an unconscionably large number of lives.
Yeah.
I don't feel that we shouldn't be willing to sacrifice so many lives. That's everything that's wrong with the human race.
Yeah, I'm feeling South Africa that you just mentioned now, the relevance. I feel that our leadership is exactly there. They're feeling irrelevant. We've got idiots that don't know what they're talking about half the time. They're trying to make up their own stories. They get put in their place. So yeah, I think the idea, especially in South Africa, of being irrelevant.
I agree. And you can expect more rhetoric from them and noise.
Yeah.
And
but that's all it is.
But the thing is, there's going to be a very there's going to be a very clear message from voters, and turnout is going to matter a lot this time. The voters are going to say, fix the basics. Remember I said before about service delivery? This is what is going to really topple and tip tip the balance over here. We want the basics. We're not accepting all this nonsense anymore. We're not accepting your bluster. We're not interested in your opening of parliament speeches, in your state of the nation and all this rubbish. Because if you don't fix the basics, the grassroots is going to get you to fix the basics. And the mandate going forward is going to be unforgiving. It's going to be simple. We'll hand you a mandate, whether it's a unified government or not. And no, it's not. I do believe the ANC is irrelevant. But the people are going to say South Africa is not collapsing and we're going nowhere. But we are going to be aware that amongst the youth, strange enough, amongst all the youth in the world, I still see South African youth as being relevant. There's a rising in consciousness of growing up fast politically. We've been on kind of this dead zone. We've been like, life support, flatlining for decades. We expected to be in a far better situation right now. But suddenly this youth, this new generation, these two new generations, the last two, are growing up fast. And they are really understanding their politics. And this is the hope for leading from Africa. But again, at what price? South Africa and the masses of South Africa have paid the most terrible price for so long. It's enough already. But their mandate is not going to just be handed on a plate. But we do have a future. We have a present and we have a future. When I look at Europe, I just see decay. It's decaying. It's old. I don't feel this new infusion of blood. I feel, again, that they're going to become aware of their history and the gravity of it, the heaviness of it. But on the positive side, because every single South African who's watching this knows how difficult it is to live here, whether you're living in an area near gang violence, and I certainly I certainly do witness this. In fact, there's no South African who is anywhere that they cannot witness poverty or problems. And there's no South African who has not gone without electricity or water for a few days. This is what it's come to. But yet, I'm saying that this is where the lifeblood is in Africa. So it's good that William is filming in Nigeria. He's continuing the theme because this is where we have a chance for things to really happen. It doesn't wipe out the threat of ISIS and all the rest in the Sahel and anything I've spoken about before and radical Islam. It doesn't wipe it out. But and nor are we removed from anything that happens. Imagine if the oil pipeline to Iran is interfered with. When you think of how much we rely on that oil, we are not untouched. But there is a fault line, and Ukraine right now remains a fault line. The real battle is time. Can Europe sustain unity longer than Russia can sustain pressure? This is the thing. Europe, tell me now really whether Europe is unified. It's less unified than it has ever been before the idea of the EU. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that is going to be where fault lines can kind of start extending. I said where it starts or where they crack. And do also take these words of prophecy that the Eastern Europe, Poland, and all around that area are going to be far more serious now about using NATO protocols, about building up their military, than some of the other countries which will be a bit more complacent, that are going to be undergoing more cyber warfare. But complacency is dangerous. And our duty is not to catastrophize, not to scare people. It's to somehow say to them, these are all the possibilities. But for goodness sake, think. I saw an amazing picture. Well, it wasn't so amazing. It was quite frightening, of an MRI showing how the human brain is beginning to look for those who merely use ChatGPT and don't choose to think anymore. And we're at the very beginning. You can actually see it on an MRI. Those areas of the brain are not lighting up, and it even looks ugly. So we have such an ally in AI the future belongs to those who are really clever and know how to build an alliance, and the present as well, because AI could control wars too. And when state actors publicly contradict proxy escalation, we also have issues. You've mentioned these ones you think are the stakeholders. But even in Iran, there's other stuff happening right now which can't be ignored. The role of Hezbollah and what they say. They say, first they said, okay, now we're going to go to war again if you strike Iran. Now they're saying, but okay, well, if you don't fight with Iran, then we'll do nothing. There are different smaller players. Hezbollah has always been a proxy for Iran that can actually sway the balance of power in the Middle East, and that will have a ripple effect into the whole world. So we could sit here, in analysis, as you say, of the world for ages, or one can give very flippant and silly predictions for this year, like who's going to have a baby, which celebrity is going to die. It's of no significance whatsoever. Nothing. What is important is to use all the platforms to help people to find ways to raise their consciousness. And this is something that you have been doing in abundance through your podcasts, through your movies. You are really trying to make people understand that there is a power and it's within them. And intellect and conscience and consciousness all go hand in hand. They are interlinked. And if you can do your part doing that, you will have done more than many are already doing in this world.
I was listening to a podcast this week, actually. It's one of Danny Jones' podcasts. Danny Jones is a very well-known American podcaster. And he was chatting to a guy, I can't remember because I've listened to so many now, but I can't remember who he spoke to. But this guy brought up something which was very, very interesting. He said that from the beginning of mankind, from the beginning of our time, whether it be 250,000, 300,000 years ago, whatever the story, there's been a battle, there's been a war that's been ongoing. That's been, and it's actually, there's not prophecies, but there's texts written about this, like ancient texts, between the sons of light and the sons of dark. And
yes, even in the Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
The Dead Sea Scrolls, absolutely.
And I found it very, very interesting. So there's a movement on one side to bring forward enlightenment, to bring forward the betterness of oneself, to bring forward the betterness of the world. But on the other side, there's the people that are trying to block it. They're trying to not have that because they don't want that story coming to fruition. So I think this is where we are now. I think and it's come to the forefront because I can see there's a lot of people that are awakening. A lot of people that I chat to, I can actually hear that there seems to be a big mind change. Where previously, if I spoke to people in the 80s about certain things like UFOs or whatever the weird stuff was, you speak to them now about it, it's like, no, I believe in those things and this, that, and then they start talking about spirituality and they start talking about all sorts of stuff, which I think is fantastic. So we're fighting for it, but then there's those that are fighting against it.
Absolutely, and there's also another side to that, which is you have to examine those who think they're fighting for the light to see if they are actually falling into the irrational and conspiracy theories. Because, that which is real is worth counterfeiting. And in Kabbalah, which is my path, we always understand that there's the tree of light and the tree of darkness. But you can get a genuine Gucci or you can get a knockoff because a Gucci is worth counterfeiting. Well, we have the angels and there are those, and we have the battle for light, and there are those who think they're battling for light but are taken in by some of the theories that have been sown by those who are truly actually fighting for, if you want to call it, the dark. And conspiracy theories are one of the most dangerous things on this planet. So that word awakening is the hard one because it has to be contextualized. True awakening is awakening to both the intellect and to the spirit, not to what you're force-fed. When I think of those poor, yeah, foie gras geese who have who are stuffed so that their livers eventually burst. This is what I see amongst human beings. They're being fed any nonsense and they believe it. If you're told enough times, and if you now have deep fake visuals coming up, and people telling you, people who you think are influential or erudite saying it, you believe it. So we need to sift and sift and sift out the conspiracies. What is working for the light? It's very easy to actually establish. Are you working towards helping the whole of humanity? Do you want the best for everybody? Or do you think that you're above everything and everyone? Even if your path is different from others, are you here to illuminate? Or are you here to say, oh no, I'm more enlightened than you, I'm more spiritual than you, I'm greater than you, and this is a conspiracy done by the Russians. This is a conspiracy by the Chinese. This is the Illuminati. As soon as you fall down that rabbit hole, your brain has fallen out of your head. So that is the hard part, sifting. And this is what we're doing this year in 2026, sifting the truth. But nothing will be won by pretending that humans don't have an intellect. We have amazing brain. I'm hoping we can truly one day establish proper communication with the dolphins because their brains are like twice the size of ours. And the brain and consciousness definitely go together because the brain is the instrument. It's not consciousness itself because something departs when we pass on. But people need to be using their brains because this is their greatest danger. You can cause the most incredible harm by merely believing what you see because someone has said it on TikTok. And this is happening. It's not theoretical. One can pull up a whole lot of examples and hatred. If any path promotes hatred, it's a problem. And some of the religious paths, and even with the rival messiahs, I'd say you have to again weigh and measure and sift because the messiah, the one who is claiming, or we'll call it, it's a different path, so the person would say he is a Mahdi. He's interesting because he purports to bring, wants universal peace, and a lot of it's a message of peace. And then, however, there are many messages within the broadcast that undermine different religions very carefully and subtly. And then there is the claim that this is not a cult. And at the same time, there's the assertion and excuses made for why there's communal living. So I'm not casting aspersions on this particular person, but I'm saying this is an issue that can and I believe will come to the fore even more in 2026. You are never bringing the light and the truth unless you really want it for everybody and you are not working in an exclusive club. You can have your path. That's fine. But you need to share the light and seed the light. So I don't know. I'd like to actually ask you, I'd like to engage with you about the awakening, about what you've experienced and what type of awakening you've encountered with people.
Okay, so the people that I chat to, I'll give you an example. It's a silly one, which I was talking today. I was giving a guy a lift up to his home. We're just doing some work for him, and we just got chatting. I don't know a guy from the bar of soap at all. And we started talking, and he kind of gave me a bit of a rundown of what work he does, and we were kind of talking a little bit about that. And then he got into a bit of spiritual stuff, his beliefs in God and that kind of stuff. And then he said to me, "Yeah, but I'm not really religious. I'm more of a spiritual person." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, explain that to me, because I know I know what it means, but I just thought maybe he doesn't know." I said, "Look, I grew up Hindu. We had a whole lot of kind of religious texts and religious understandings, but I don't really follow that. I believe that there's a greater something out there that's that's in charge, if you want to put it that way. But it's not. There's all these little things. These like gimmicky little things at the bottom. It's not the real. It's not the real thing. The real thing is beyond that." And that's just a very basic kind of discussion that I had with him. But it's not only one person. The people that I've spoken to, there's a lot that kind of think the
That's
same
super.
route. Yeah. But on the
Mm,
same note, on the other side, I work
mm,
with a lot of very religious Muslim people, and they are very
mm,
dogmatic. They stick to that, even if now and then I'll throw
mm,
something and I'll say, but what do you think about this?
mm.
No, far be it. Ooh, it's there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Mm. So,
So
but you
that,
know, this is the thing about this life is duality,
mm,
and spiritually was always meant to be, because if the scale doesn't tip, we get stasis. And when everything is completely in balance, then nothing moves. It's almost like it ceases to exist, because there'll be no reason for the world to exist, because there'll be no opposing. If there's no game to play, if you're not in the game, then there's nothing happening. So
mm,
things have to kind of swing slightly out of control, and we have to have the dogmatic, and we have got to have the more enlightened, and we all of the players on the stage. But our very survival depends on us realizing that as a species, it is completely unevolved to keep on killing each other. And why can such a simple concept not be understood by the beings besides the cetaceans who have the largest brains and have the consciousness? And this is where we're going to come unstuck horribly if we do not come to this realization, because it will be shoved down our throats. The Bible's prophecies will certainly emerge in technicolor, and probably from other scriptures too, and it will be woe betide us. Other species do not spill blood in the same way. They do not do it for vengeance. They kill to eat.
mm,
But we have hatred. So this is where we're coming undone. And it doesn't matter whether we're spiritual or religious. If we have hatred in our heart towards somebody else who thinks differently, then that means there's no ways that we can work for the side of the light. We can delude ourselves, but in the same spirit and the same breath, I've prophesied that 2026 strips you of your delusions and your illusions. So I would say delusions are illusions that are entrenched. One becomes so deluded that one believes the illusion so much that you just can't part from them. It becomes your reality, and when one is stripped of a delusion and it is in a crisis, that is very, very traumatic. And if humanity does not start thinking in the ways, I'm very encouraged that by the conversation you had today. But unfortunately, we still do have a critical mass at the moment that are more deluded in the favor of extremism. And again, the scales tip. We don't want them to balance, because it will never happen on planet Earth. But we would like to tip the scales back more to where good reigns, or where good dominates. And this is very, very difficult. And so I'm going to ask everybody who's listening to this to understand all these challenges and all these possibilities. And also to understand that there probably won't be sweeping continental war, but I cannot say to you that there won't be persistent conflict at the edges. I do foresee conflict, many conflicts. And I said this year is going to be crazy and weird. I do see issues that are going to collapse our economic expectations, maybe even affect our stock exchanges. We don't need to have this grand world war. We need to attend to what conflicts are here right now, and say, we want to lay down our swords and turn them into plowshares. But the problem is, it always lands up one preaching to the converted. Those who need to hear the message will have inner earplugs that they don't even know. Their inner ears are closed. And this is why you need to keep on educating others through your show, and through getting a diversity of views out there, so people can just start thinking.
mm.
We need to stimulate thinking, and we need to make sure that conspiracy theories don't multiply, because that is where hatred multiplies.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm assuming you're talking
And
more
also,
conspiracy theories regarding things that are kind of going on politically wise, because there is a conspiracy
yes.
theory that I'm a very avid follower of. Although for me, it's not really a conspiracy theory. It's more to do with, I think it's something that's there, just it's never been told, which is the whole UFO. People think, oh, yeah, but these crash sites
Oh,
are
oh,
conspiracy. So
yeah,
for me, the
no.
whole alien thing, I believe very, very much. And I believe.
Oh,
So what is your thoughts on this year?
yeah.
What is your thoughts
Oh,
this year? Do you think
I
we're going
mean,
to get something?
the things that they keep on disclosing themselves, and it's shut down. So it's not I don't believe it's a conspiracy. I'm totally in there with you, and I have been since I
Yeah.
was a child, and I have seen and I've had experiences. But around the time of Trump's election, all of those strange craft, suddenly there was a lot of publicity, and then it just got shut down. And as far as Atlas goes, this thing hasn't just disappeared, and Atlas is one of many. If we can't, it's for as humans, it's been out of sight, out of mind. But no, for me, I don't think it's a conspiracy, because humans have got to wake up to understanding that we cannot be just in a vacuum, that this isn't a vacuum. If we look at even the calculations, the mathematical calculations, there are quite a few ways to spin this. I've even looked at the simulation argument, and that at the moment is being ditched. But when it comes to those who are from other dimensions and other galaxies, I don't doubt it for a moment.
Mm.
What is damaging were these conspiracies that cast very ordinary people in the role of Illuminati and reptilians. And now I can laugh. At the height of my fame in 2003, only now can I laugh. I was in Johannesburg at the time, and I was signing my book, A Survival Kit for the Hereafter, in a well-known bookshop. And a man came up to me and he scratched me.
Okay.
And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, you're a reptilian. So they want you to see where my scales are." Because of,
Uh,
because the work that I was doing. So the stuff can get very real. And of course, the assassination attempt against me also, when people decide that if you hold a different view, that's evil. So this reptilian thing, that the conspiracies like that are very dangerous. Yeah, my first thought was, oh my God, I hope he hasn't, given me some terror dread disease. And then I thought, well, hang on, I should have more of a problem with this man thinking that I'm a reptilian. So,
that's
the Charlie Kirk death, the
yeah.
ridiculous conspiracies that have emerged. This is lazy thinking.
Mm.
Racism, prejudice, and conspiracy theories are people who have got lazy thinking. They're not actually doing the work of thinking. It's laziness.
Mm.
But laziness has led to the most terrible events. Lazy thinking in life.
There was a
And
thing
this
in
is why
America.
in South Africa, carry on, please.
No, no, sorry. I was going to say there's a thing in America that somebody was discussing the fact that about this whole World War III thing. And they were saying we actually don't even need to pick up a weapon. All we need to do is control the narrative on social media and we can win the war.
Correct.
That's all. That's all it
Correct.
is. Yeah.
100,000%. And this is where those who manipulate AI have got all of the resources that they need. If one person, if you were to see pictures that are completely credible put out by the White House, and they will say they have, that they have released all of their aircraft and have destroyed all the Iranian drones, or vice versa, if whoever gets it out there first, who is to know? We need to raise discerning people. We need to cultivate intellects, because that is 100% true. And there's nobody who can actually thwart that argument. We can talk about our assessments, and we can talk about our strikes and our analysis, and countries that are more interested in than others. But yes, whoever controls the narrative is one, full stop.
Mm.
You have summed it up.
Yeah. Very cool. No, that's awesome, man. Rabbi, it's always lucky to have you on, and thank you for your time again. I know it's very valuable.
Thank
But yeah,
you too.
hopefully I'd like to get you on sometime, maybe in the near future. I definitely want to chat about the Kabbalah. I think it's very, very interesting, that whole uh, aspect of um, the other world, you know what I mean, the alternate thinking, the alternative ways of uh, divine intervention and divine thinking and divine structure. Because that for me is very,
Super.
very interesting. Yeah, but I think a lot of
I would
our
love
viewers
that.
would like that. Yeah, awesome. No,
Thank you
fantastic.
so much.
Thanks, Rabbi. Have a
Have a good
fantastic
evening.
evening. You too.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Bye
cheers.
bye.
Well, yeah, that's it for another episode of Strange and Mysterious World, guys and girls from all around the world. Thank you again for listening to us and subscribing. Hopefully, William will be back in our next podcast. But as mentioned, he is out of the country filming. And yeah, please go and check his luciustv.com. Go and check out his documentaries that he's put on there. It's very, very interesting. Some really cool stuff. Definitely to do with strange and mysterious in this world. And yeah, please like and subscribe on YouTube and Podbean and all the other podcasting stations around there. And we'll chat to you guys next week. Thanks again, everybody. Cheers, cheers. Bye.